Tonight I'm gonna go downtown, 'cause I'm done feeling blue, done feeling blue. Yeah, I'm done feeling blue, baby, over you.
Hey sightseers, Sightseeing Sally here. I'm with Marty here. He's hanging out in the truck with Mocha again.
What's up?
And today we're in a small town known as Mingus, Texas. Located in the northeast region of Texas in Palo Pinto County, and with a current population hovering somewhere less than 300, this small town was named after William Mingus, a settler who came to the area in 1856. Established with the arrival of the railroad, this town grew up mainly serving ranchers and farmers. But don't let this quiet, near-forgotten Texas town and its seemingly mundane history fool you. Once home to no less than 10 whiskey joints and even a brothel or two, back in the day, Mingus had the reputation of being a local favorite for cowboys with broken noses and oil-field roughnecks with missing teeth. And how we ended up here is kind of an interesting story. First off, if you're wondering why we're not back in Wisconsin, Illinois, the Midwest, that's because right about now, I believe they might be getting some snow, plus temperatures haven't been exactly conducive to filming, and so rather than fight old man winter, we've headed south and west, which has brought us to the wonderful state of Texas. Milder temps, lots of small towns, and of course we're getting closer to the desert, which is one of our favorite places to explore. But I digress, because you were all wondering how we ended up in Mingus, and I had said that was an interesting story. Let's get into that. You want to explain how we ended up in Mingus?
I have no idea.
That's a typical Marty response. How we ended up in Mingus is we were over in Thurber, a pretty well-known ghost town here in Texas, and decided after scoping it out that maybe there wasn't quite enough there to film. So out of curiosity, we had seen the sign that said Mingus 2 miles ahead.
And here we are.
And the first thing that caught Marty's eye here in Mingus is
This building that's attached to the old Palo Pinto Company, precinct number 3, dated 1953. If you look real close at the attached building, you can see it says Texas Hotel on it at one time. They painted over it, or it's just wearing off.
Yeah, if you look real closely, you can see the outline of Texas Hotel on there. Our assumption is that it was a hotel at one time, and considering I didn't have any pre-planned research done on this place, and the little bit that I was able to come up with on the town on the run, we have no idea what it was. So again, assuming that it was a hotel just based on the sign up there. Good thing I made it across the tracks when I did. Trains here are pretty active. Within like the last 5-10 minutes, that's the second set of trains coming through.
Check this out. This fence is made from old railroad ties. You can see where the rails were attached at one time. They just torched off the railroad spikes.
Yeah, it is kind of interesting that that fence is made out of railroad ties, given that this old historical marker is talking about the railroad.
Who would have thunk?
The historical marker actually gives a little bit of insight into some of the origins of Mingus. According to the sign, in 1887, before any settlement occurred at this location, Texas and Pacific Railroad laid a spur track from the main line down to the coal mines, which are 2 miles from here. And which, if you know anything about the origins of Thurber, the coal mines are what brought Thurber to life. Basically what the sign is saying, that Mingus here didn't come into being until the railroad came here. And that is pretty much what I had read online as well. But I guess what is the most interesting point that the sign makes is that when they platted out this area, north of the main tracks became Mangus, and south of the tracks remained Thurber Junction. And the other interesting thing to note about Mangus's early history is that all the homes and businesses in Mangus were owned by Americans, while the businesses and homes south in Thurber Junction were owned mainly by European and Middle Eastern immigrants. Well, here's something I didn't expect to see. A face carved into that old tree trunk. That's pretty nifty.
After looking before at this, I've seen that windsock for airports, and then I see like a gravel pad over there. I bet that's for a helicopter for emergencies because how remote this is out here.
Yeah, probably, because what else would you do?
Yeah, that's about it.
Off in the distance, you can see Marty checking out an old building. If you look closely up there, it says State Bank. I'm assuming that means that was the State Bank at one time here in town. I suppose I could always go over to the local watering hole and ask.
See, they had a fire.
Yeah. What are you looking at so intently there on the ground?
You look, these all say Thurber brick on them. Or they got a triangle.
Did you jump in the gun there a little bit?
Just pointing it out.
It's interesting that Marty's pointing that out because later in the video we will head over to Thurber and you can see that. However, since Marty already let the cat out of the bag that there is bricks made by Thurber, over in Thurber there was a brick making factory at one time. Now here's a place that looks like it might be right up Marty's alley. Good thing the tobacco stand's closed now, right Marty?
You bet.
It's better for his health this way. This looks like a place that you'd want to buy and fix up.
Yeah, this one ain't too bad. The roof isn't caving in yet on this one.
Now, what would you sell out of it?
Cigarettes.
Try again. Yeah, it's a cool little building, isn't it, Marty?
Yeah, it is.
And for those of you curious to know, Mangus does have a post office and a bank.
This used to be, it looks like an old service station, but at one time it also was for sundries or a general store. If you actually look at the window over there.
You can see it says sundries in the window and then also Coca-Cola. And interestingly enough, on the front door, there's a sticker that says Lavera, the light, silky, smooth cigar. I wonder if those are still made. If you know, let me know in the comment section below. And the other thing that I want to point out is that Marty was telling me that this was always a large overhead door because of the way the brickwork is. Can you explain why that you said that it's always been a large overhead door?
Because the bricks are laid this way, and then they laid them this way here going sideways. So it's this size brick, but they're laid sideways. See the mark here going up and down? You can see the mark there. And every other one. Because they took the brick and they turned it. And these are a decorative corner brick that they put in. It's every so many rows.
So what you're saying is that they intentionally made a large overhead door here.
Yeah, it's always been there.
Well, now I learned something new about brickwork. Now here's something that caught my eye. It says Johnny's Liquor Store on it. Reminds me of the old neon signs you see on Route 66. And while Johnny's Liquor Store is nowhere to be found, the building that's there now is the Mingus Quick Stop. And it kind of looks like Lori has taken over for Johnny.
Interesting enough, at one time the words going to Mingus was local code for going to buy a bottle.
Now I gotta say, when we drove into town, this actually caught my eye. You know, being from the North Woods of Wisconsin, This place would be right up my alley if I was living here. And I think I might have even talked Marty into going in for one. As you could probably tell, the deer lease is the happening spot come Friday night, just not so much on a Monday. Speaking of happening spots, this town's major claim to fame revolves around the serving of libations and the multitude of sins that go along with it. Unlike its neighboring teetotaler towns, at one time, Mingus was the only town within an hour's drive that served drinks stronger than a sarsaparilla, which meant, come Friday night, Mingus's population swelled tenfold or more, with people coming from all around to shed their inhibitions with a little help from Bud, Jack, or Jim. Anyways, got a few more cool old buildings here in Mingus to show you before we head on over to Thurber. This one caught my eye. It says Benvenita's Italian, Sweet Loretta's Beer and Wine, which are the current businesses inside the building. But it's the old sign that really sparked my interest. John Frank's Grocery and Market. I don't know if that's an original to the town or if they just put that there. If you happen to be from Mingus and you know, let me know in the comment section below. And then just a little ways down the street is this building. Marty's been oohing and eyeing over it the whole time since we came into town. That's all I've been hearing him is talking about how much he loves this building. Why do you like that building so much?
I don't know, it just reminds me of the 70s.
Is that the only reason?
That's it.
It is a cool looking building. I'll give you that. Then next door to the building that Marty's in love with is the City Hall for Mingus, Texas. And then there's this building. Kind of reminds me of an old plantation home. You know, it's got the big wraparound porch, 2-story. I don't know. It's a pretty cool old house. I was just gonna buzz right on by, except I seen this and figured better stop and read it, and I'm glad I did. This was at one time the location of a saloon called Snake Saloon. And I found out from talking to the town's mayor that this house I was oohing over used to be the town's brothel. And that Snake Saloon that used to be here used to have a tunnel running under the streets directly to the brothel. Can you imagine the stories those walls could tell? With so many of the original whiskey joints gone, it can be hard to imagine this town once being the center stage for drunken-inspired shenanigans. Yet, to this day, there remain a few historic reminders pointing to the town's wild past. Well, now we know what happened to the old Cheech and Chong car from the movie Up in Smoke.
Yep, mystery solved.
On the outskirts of town is this old building. And if we hadn't talked to the town's mayor, we would have been a little puzzled as to what the building actually was, but he clued us in.
With the proximity to the railroad, I thought this building had something to do with the railroad, but I was completely wrong.
Yeah, I kind of thought so too.
Just by the style.
Yeah, but we know what it really is, or was. It's the town's old Methodist church, and now that I've had a chance to really look at it, I can see that up there is the old belfry or bell tower. It's just that with the top of it torn off, you really couldn't tell what that was. And I guess from what we learned, somebody tried stealing the old bell out of it.
Misappropriated.
You can see that they still have the old pews inside. With all the carousing that used to go on in Mingus, you'd almost think there wasn't any churches in town. However, that is not the case. Besides the old tumbling down Methodist church, there is another church that can be found, one that is still active, and that is the Baptist church, where services have been held continually since 1906. A town, seemingly in the middle of nowhere, with a past bigger than its current population, Mingus shows that even the smallest of towns, with modest beginnings, can end up with a reputation larger than life. Proof you're in Texas.